What is going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 60. I'm your host, Marcus, and in this episode, we are talking about the first thing I do every year. Now, I've kind of already gone over some different things on how I'm approaching this year, what I learned from last year, but the one thing I want to start talking about is the one thing I do every single year. Essentially, since I have read a particular book, it has led me down a particular route that I like to essentially establish this ritual almost in the beginning of every year. And that is mindfulness. And that is going back and connecting with a book I've talked about many different times, Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. That book really helps me put stuff in perspective. And over the last year, I made some really big leaps and bounds and changes. This year, I want to continue to do that. This year, I want to continue to be open, and it's not something that is easy. Now, I also follow someone called Kyle Cease as well, and he follows the same exact essentially routine each and every day, and it's sitting in silence and understanding something I've always talked about and something that's important that you need to do. I realize, and something else I've learned is that a lot of different people are at different conscious levels in your life. Depending on what experiences you've lived, different traumatic events can accelerate that consciousness, or different big events, such as like having a kid or something, can change that conscious level to make you be more aware of specific things that are going on in your life. And that's what this is. That's what this mindfulness is. And that Michael Singer and Kyle Cease essentially teach, which I don't really see the difference between the two. They're very similar. There might be some smaller details in that, but ultimately, their whole their whole process of mindfulness is sitting in silence and building that awareness of who you actually are. Because when I ask you who you are, you'll describe to me what you do, where you've been, what you've done. But that's not really who you are. Like, really, what are you? And that was a question that Michael Singer asked. Like, it's a very philosophical question, right? Like, who exactly are you? Are your thoughts and ideas? Because a lot of times you can separate your thoughts and ideas from who you are. So the real question is who is that? Essentially, that the eyeballs and the thoughts and the idea, or that consciousness that is sitting back there listening to that voice in your head that's telling you it's not going to work this way, it's not going to work that way. And so when you're talking about this, going into the new year and essentially resetting, because I go through the whole year and I sit in silence and I try to build that awareness and build that consciousness. And something I've always talked about is that it only gives you the next level. And a lot of people, that's not, you're not very comfortable in doing that. And for myself, I've been that way, right? Like I've always, if it didn't make sense, I wouldn't do it. I try to make sense of it. And that's what our brains just naturally try to do. They try to protect us. So they'll try to predict what is going to happen. But when in fact, everything I thought would happen always happened the complete opposite. And so it's actually challenged me to push me to do more without worrying about what the outcome is going to be. And when you go down this route, and when I start reading this, I read this book every year. Sometimes I'm more likely, I probably read this book 2 or 3 times a year. I'll be honest, at least. And because a lot of times I just try to reset and refocus and try to refine how I observe, because it's always something you need to maintain. And something I've always said is if you want to be in shape, if you want to be more mindful, if you want to a better career, a better job, you want to be able to go out and create your own business, you want to be able to do anything, you're going to have to make sacrifices, right? You're going to have to sit in silence. You're going to have to eat healthy. You're going to have to learn new skills. You have to understand that, there's a lot of new research coming out about mindfulness and the power of it. And especially during this time that we're going through, a lot of times we are very mentally strained and stressed out of what is going on in the situations. Being put on lockdown is not an easy thing. You sit with yourself and thoughts and ideas that you've perhaps run away for years and not addressed. And then it's a lot easier for you to go out and get help. I'm not saying don't ever go out and get help. You should go out and get help if you need it. But what I'm saying is, for myself, like, I don't believe in that route. I believe that, I've consciously put myself in this position. I can consciously take myself out of this position. And it's being aware of how to do that. And every year reading this book, it gives me that awareness. It allows me to distance my feelings, my thoughts, that roommate in your head that wants to keep telling you why it's not going to work, all the bad things that are going to happen. I distance myself from that. And I have to practice that. And every year I like to read up on it again to refresh my mind about how to do that and how important that is. Again, because you find you're most at peace. And right now, a lot of people are like, who cares about at peace? You have to pay the bills. You have to do all these other things. But we are going through a very historical time where people are leaving their jobs, their normal jobs, and they're going out and seeking other things because of this, and realizing that what matters is you need to be following that intuition. And we are so disconnected from intuition. We're so plugged into what news has got to say, what movies are telling us, what ads are telling us, right? They're feeding you stuff to feed you a product to push you that you're not good enough. Now, we can all improve. Myself, I'm always trying to improve. I'm not good at everything. By far and by all means, I am not good at everything. There's some things I'm good at, but I don't think I'm the greatest. I don't think I'm great at anything. It's just maintaining and continuing to make progress in the things that matter to me, not to you, not to the person next to you. And same for you, for the things that matter to you, not to me, not to the person next to us. It doesn't matter. It's what matters to you. What is your intuition trying to guide you to do? And a lot of times it does not make sense. A lot of times you only get next steps. And something I've really been working on is that next step, is trying to be okay. Well, it doesn't seem like it's working out, but what's that next step? And that's all it takes, is to sit down and meditate or be quiet for an hour and realize that you come up with answers. And consciously, you're going to be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How did I just randomly come up with answers? If you sit with yourself and allow all the electronics, everything to be turned off, sit in a quiet room, right? Close your eyes. You're removing one of the senses, and just focus on perhaps your heart, perhaps your body, the moment. If you could put yourself in the moment, and this is where awareness counts, because you have to be in the moment, right? The past doesn't truly exist. Maybe existed at one point. The future doesn't exist. Maybe existed at one point. But now is what matters. You need to be in the now, and to be able to do that, you have to be aware of what's going on. And there are going to be ups and downs. And one thing, I talked about being positive a lot, and I do think that's important, but you have to understand that there is always going to be negative and positive, always. And if you can remain as neutral as possible, that's where you need to be. And it's just observing life and living life. It's bad. You should get to be able to get to the point where you can laugh it off. Like, I kind of knew that was going to happen. It happened. It's all good. I can move on, right? And live and learn. It's that we take that and we get frustrated and we get angry and we go out and we take actions that, perhaps you were doing great on your diet for 90 days and something came up in your at work, and now you're just frustrated, and you go home and just eat everything in the pantry, and then you just eat everything, and then you lose all progress, and you start back in this old routine. And understand that, being aware, being mindful is a practice. Like, again, anything in life, you're going to have to sacrifice some things to be able to get the things that you truly want. And for myself, there's like specific things I want in life. Like, I want to be healthy. That's always number one. Like, I want to be able to live young as I get old, as I age older. So I took upon myself to become plant-based to do that. Because in my mind, in my opinion, after, the tons of research that I went over, that was the best opportunity I had in my mind. Now, not just being said, yes, I want to take care of my health. And I've continuously, rigorously, always put that first, allowed myself to be healthy. And then after that was built up, I moved to the next thing. Right. And it's doing art. Art is one of the biggest things I've wanted to do. I've done since I was a kid. I've always loved art. I love looking at art. I love drawing art. I love creating things. I love being creative. And for a long time, I just kind of shut that down and try to use other alternatives to be able to do that. Right. Perhaps it was video games, or perhaps it was doing something else. Maybe not drawing, maybe not creating, but coding something would help essentially solve that hunger, or creating a YouTube video would essentially help me solve that hunger. But ultimately understand, like, I still love just doing art. It was just always fun, very extremely fun for me. Like, I can do it for hours and just get lost in doing it. And then I always think about new thoughts and ideas of what I can create. That goes into all kinds of other things. Essentially drawing that creativity out, and thinking about business ideas and thinking about directions and where I want to go, then, it fosters just so many ideas. And then I start thinking about blockchain and NFTs, and I want to start creating and coding there. And so I want to start picking up coding, and it's the feeling. For a while, I was sitting there thinking, I don't want to be sitting in meetings all the time discussing something. I'd rather be going out and doing something. And that's what matters, is doing stuff. And this is one of the biggest misconceptions, I think, when you were trying to follow your intuition, where you can't just sit and think that something's going, and hope that something is going to happen. A lot of times it just never does happen unless you do something. You do have to take action. You do have to take big action. If you have bigger hopes and dreams, you need to take bigger action. Maybe that is through risk in some aspect, whether that's through money, whether that's through asking somebody to go out with you, or whatever the case is, right? You have to take some sort of risk to be able to get to where you want, because things don't just happen. They don't just fall off a tree. It's very rarely they do, but when they do, it's because you've put in enough action that you're generating essentially enough opportunity for you to do that. So when you're looking at observing and living your life, and when I talk about Kyle Cease, and when I talk about Michael Singer, it's hard to just, you're fighting an urge that's telling you don't do this. And it's not really the urge, it's more the thoughts and the ideas. Well, this just isn't going to work out. Why am I doing this? This makes no sense. How can I continue to do this? But you continue to progress, and you find, oh, look I figured something out. I was starting to stress there. I figured something out. It's starting to work. I just need to be patient. And I think that is one of the biggest lessons to learn just about life in general, just about going and being mindful, is just being patient. And we are so impatient, and society is essentially conditioning us to not be patient, to be impatient, that everything can be fixed overnight, that you can put yourself in a place overnight. That isn't always the case. There are a lot of things when it comes to mindfulness that you have to realize that it is a journey in being mindful and separating yourself from your thoughts and ideas, and saying yes to some things. When you have the intuition to want to go out and do something, somebody asks you to go something, you're like, that'd be kind of fun. But when you catch yourself saying but, that's when you need to just say yes and start doing it. Go out with some people and go do something. Go over here and go do that, right? I'm curious about learning about blockchain. Go and do it. I want to code, but I'm too old. Why not? How are you too old? Right? Like, I learned to code later in my life. I did a little bit when I was younger, but like, I did a lot more when I was older. I went back to college and got my degree. Not saying you need to do that now. There's a lot more. It's a lot easier to do it now than it was even a couple of years ago. Like, you have so many tools at your fingertips. It's just being aware of them, being aware of where it's guiding you, where that intuition is guiding you. and that you can get far and you can be doing things you enjoy. Like, I've never felt freer than I do right now. Is everything, I mean, if you think about it logically, is everything 100% hunky dory? No, it's not. But what matters is I feel free in what I'm doing, because there is no guarantee. And I've talked about this many times, and people always talk about this. And Marcus Aurelius always talked about living like there is still no tomorrow, living like you'll never, if you have kids, if you'll never see your kids after they go to sleep, right? And I'm not saying to be morbid or anything like that, but what I'm saying is you have to put things in a different perspective. You want to change the way you live life, you have to change your perspective, because the perspective you have isn't going to change unless you get something that is shocking to your system that forces you to change. Perhaps you get bullied and you feel like, man, I just can't do this anymore. I'll make change. Maybe I'll start working out. Maybe I'll start taking martial arts or something like that to build myself stronger, to build my self-confidence. My self-confidence is there. Maybe that bully will stop fighting. Right? Like, I was bullied a lot when I was a kid. I was forced to grow up quicker. I was forced to think faster, because I was essentially bullied through my whole childhood. But I don't regret any of it. I think that is one of the biggest mistakes, is like, it helped me grow. Because now maybe I'm older, I can look back on that and say, yeah, you know what, that really did. It helped me more than it hurt me. And the problem is a lot of times I think we want to fall victim, because society will push you to, oh man, you have the right to feel this way. Yes, I have the right, but it is not going to be an anchor to hold me down. Like, my intuition is telling me to push, to take action, to go do something else. Don't be weighed down by people's words. People are way too far down by people's words and driven by people. You're driven by fear. Don't fear things. They are just words. And I think we tend to forget that. We tend to forget that so much is driven by fear. And if you could just be aware, and this is why awareness is so big. Why are you really not taking action? What is there really to fear? Fear of the unknown. Yes, it is scary. But if you take action and do something, things change, things get better. There are ups and downs. It doesn't matter. You'll never get to a point where things are just perfect. Things never get just perfect. Things never just get bad either. We think things just get bad and they stay bad. It is really up to how we approach each and every day. Where is your awareness at? Where is your conscious level at? Are you taking action? Because it's in the little actions that are going to make the biggest changes in your life. Not, well, when this date comes and this happens, it's going to happen. But what I've always found is, you continue to push and pursue and get better and refine your craft, find those things that you like, right? Find those 3 or 4 things that you like and just do those things. Maybe you come across something that helps you out, pick that up and drop one off. Or try it for a little bit and see if it works. If it doesn't, don't be ashamed to just let it go. It's not going to work. Let it go. And I think that's the biggest misconception. Like, there's specific things in my life that I've let run for a little bit and I didn't like it and I let it go. There are things that I let run for a very long time and I've done extremely well at. Like, my health is something that I've been proud of, to say that I've been on top of it for over the past couple of years. Where throughout most of my adult life, I've done fairly well, but then there are times I've really slipped. And so you have to understand that not everything is going to be 100% all the time. But yet this picture is painted for us that if we're not 100% all the time, we are wrong. And so you try to live live your life, well, that voice is been conditioned to tell you everything that you've learned through your life, because all throughout my life that's what I was taught. And so that voice is always there. It's always telling me, are you sure this is what you should be doing? Are you sure this is what you should be doing? No one in the outs. I'm lucky enough to have people that support me through thick and thin, and they'll tell me, you know what, it is what it is, and do your thing. You got it, right? Like I got great support, but ultimately I understand, like, in my mind, I still question the things that I do. Then I have to realize that I have to separate my thoughts, ideas, and my emotions from the moment, because the moment's what matters. Am I really enjoying the moment? Am I really enjoying the sun outside? Am I really enjoying the fact that I can breathe? Am I really enjoying the fact that I'm living life? And it's really hard to get to that point, because a lot of times, we struggle with each and every day just trying to provide the necessities for our lives, and understand that I've been there at different times in my life. And those times are where I felt most alive. Not when I was comfortable living in a nice house and having the nice car and going to events all the time, and that is like a shell of what society wants you to have. And then you get there and you feel numb. Everything is numb. You don't even feel the same anymore. It's all almost a facade, when in fact, a lot of people are very miserable in that situation, but they continue to do it because they don't know any different. And I was that way for a long time. And now it's being guided by this, and what will happen to me next. And again, I know a lot of people, I've lost friends throughout the years, and the way I've changed my mindset. And I know that a lot of people may not agree with the way I go and the way I talk about stuff now. It's like I'm not different. I'm not different. Like, the person I am is not different. Like, I can still go out there and I can still have a good time. I can I can talk trash all the time and stuff like that. That's just who I am. But mindset wise, I'm just going to enjoy life, because I don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. You can assume you can live to 65 and hopefully retire. You can assume that by whatever means, being miserable and going and driving 2 hours a day one way, 2 hours back every day, spending 4 hours a day on the road is what you're supposed to do, and that's the way it has to be. I've done that for many years. I've done that. And I was even thinking the other day that I could have been retired by now from the military if I would have stayed in. And that, what would have happened if I would have stayed in? Life would have been very different if I would have stayed in. I don't really know where I would have been at this point, because I know I would have been back overseas if I hadn't gotten out. And that would have started a whole other journey. But I didn't. I got out. I wanted to explore the outside. For what reason? I felt like I had to. It's one of those points when you talk about making those big life decisions, like, you feel like you have to. You don't know why, but you have that intuition that it's the right thing to do. And when I first got out, I can tell you, I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Like, I'm in a bad spot. Like, nobody wants to hire me. I was so concerned about things. And then I was going back to school, trying to get my computer science degree while looking for a job. It was hard. It was really hard. And then all the jobs I had were always temporary. Every couple months, I'd be looking for something else. And I didn't have any backups. I didn't do any side hustles. I didn't do any of that stuff. And now it's like my side hustles and the main things that I do are things I really enjoy doing. Like, if I could have found them like back then, like, it wouldn't have been so stressful. If I would have followed my intuition and just started doing stuff. And I think a lot of times we we turn on the TV or we play games or we do something else. Perhaps we may uh, use some kind of substance, whether it be alcohol, or maybe we overeat just to try to help suffice this empty void that we have, instead of going out and living life and experiencing life. Instead of sitting and watching TV and watch people talk about their lives, live your life. Do things you want to do. You shouldn't have to live your life through other people, through entertainment. Yes, entertainment is fun. I'm not saying don't do that. Like, I do it, but I do it very sparingly because I'd much rather be doing something else. Like right now, I'm really into art. Right now, I really want to see what my artistic skill is and share it with the world, because I really haven't let the world see my artistic side. And I even remember as a kid being able to draw, and then the only reason people would know I could draw is we had that one art project and I drew stuff, and people were like, "Wow, you can draw." It's like, yeah, I can draw. I've been able to draw for a while. I do it all the time in my private time, but like nobody knows. It's something I enjoy doing. I like creating, because art gives you that aspect where anything is possible. And then you start looking at your life and thinking, well, if I just lived life, anything is possible as long as I take action and pursue. And when you take action and pursue and stop questioning why it's a bad idea, things start to happen. The snowball starts to roll, and you really start enjoying things. And I was even thinking about NFTs. Like, I really haven't gotten into NFTs till recently, but I realized back in February, if I had gotten in, right, I could have been in Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? If I would have took the risk and followed intuition and just bought in because I liked the thought and the idea, the technology behind it, what it represented, right? This is where you have to take some risk. You have to take a risk. I'm not saying go and just blow your life savings on something, but you have to take some sort of risk, because if you don't take any risk, you're not going to know. You have to take the risk and leave it all on the table. And something I've talked about, I want to be the best possible version of myself. And the only thing I know how to reach that level is by following my curiosity, by doing the things that I love to do each and every day, going to the gym each and every day, drawing something each and every day, even if it's just a little bit, right? Learning about stock market stuff, even though it seems really boring and mundane to a lot of people. People don't like money. I didn't either. I love the stock market now. I really thoroughly enjoy those things. It's like a game. Life is a game. You can enjoy life instead of playing the game, instead of watching the movie. Live it. Follow your intuition. Separate. Again, so important, separating the thoughts from your actions. Yes, there'll be consequences of things. Yes. You can take some calculated, but you have to understand that to be able to fly, you can't fly with one foot on the deck. Like, you have to do it. You have to immerse yourself in it. If that means you work all day, you come home, you're exhausted, it's a whole new day. You got a whole new day to work out. If you want to get healthy, to prep your meals, to do whatever. Make that your day. Those couple hours you may have. Maybe you have kids, right? It makes it a little bit harder, but understand that after the kids go to bed, that's your day. Make that 2 hours that you have to yourself, make it count. Don't sit on the couch. Don't jump on the video game. Don't, use substances. Don't do whatever, right? Or eat, or whatever the case is. Find the one thing that you want to do and do it in that hour. You realize that over time, it adds up. And over time, you start achieving the things that you want, because you are living your purpose.